The member for Hume has the call.
Treasurer, the Albanese Labor government is the weakest and most incompetent since Whitlam. Yesterday, the RBA governor said, when I speak to the Treasurer, he is fully aware—
We're going to deal with this issue once and for all. I have now checked my records and I want to make a statement to the House. We've dealt with this before. I want to just go through the House about where we're at with this issue, because I'm relying on former Speaker's advice and what they have said to the House on this matter as well. Speaker Andrew probably gave the most comprehensive description of improper motives at the beginning, middle and end of questions, as highlighted on page 556 of practice, and noted the attitude to intervene when the attribution of motive was such that it cannot be ignored. Speaker Smith ruled on 2 occasions, and I want to read some of his statements about this descriptor coming in, which will then be used as a tag. And on 2 occasions, he ruled that part of the question out of order. That was on the 15th of February 2021 and the 4th of December 2018. Speaker Smith said in relation to this issue being raised, "I'm certainly not comfortable with the language that just makes assertions as it did. I'm really not. And those on my left, the then opposition, wouldn't be comfortable if that sort of language was directed back at them." We don't need commentary from those on my right either. Language shouldn't be in question. So I'm following the practice and the precedent of 2 former speakers here. So I'm just going to ask the member. Now, on that occasion, both occasions, Speaker Smith just ruled the questions out of order. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to invite the member, as is my practice, to make sure every question remains within the standing orders, just to remove that part of the question and begin his question again. No, you can't make a comment. No, you can't make a comment. Do you wish to make a point of order?
You to reflect then on every question the Teal party asked, who, as that previous question did, had a lot of influence on people in this chamber.
And on order, and thank you for I thank the member for Page for raising that as a point of order, because I've taken that approach also with members of the crossbench. And if you'd like to check the records, on the 12th of February 2024, on the 14th of February 2023, on the 20th of March 2024, with crossbench questions, I did, and in other examples, invite them to rephrase the question. Yes, on a point of order, the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. My point of order is to seek clarification from you as to whether or not it is your ruling that using the description of the word weakest as a description of the government and using the description the most incompetent government, that you are ruling that that is not in order, and that you would rule a question out of order if it was to be included as a description of the Albanese Government as a preamble or as part of the question at the end of the question being asked of the government.
On the point of order.
Just to the point of order, Mr Speaker, just to draw the attention of the House to the difference between the restricted rules that are there under standing orders for questions, where there are other terms that would not otherwise be unparliamentary but cannot be included in questions, which is exactly what that ruling goes to.
That's correct. And I certainly, if that is used as language during question time, or that is being used, of course would allow that. But when it comes to the questions, I'm following the precedent and examples that I've used in question time and that former speakers have used as well. So to assist the House, if we can rephrase the question so that we can keep moving forward with question time, so everyone's question can be asked and answered, it would greatly assist the House, just as I've done before and in line with former speakers, to ensure that we can ask the question without the imputation added to it. And I give the call to the member for Hume.
Mr Speaker, I thank you for your advice. I do seek a ruling under the standing orders in relation to this matter, because I don't believe that there is a case here to be made that using the words weakest and the most incompetent government since the Whitlam government are offending the standing orders. And I don't believe it's in order for a ruling on that basis to be made. Now, I'm very happy to assist you, of course, in the orderly conduct of the chamber, but the opposition can't be put into a position where we can't describe the government as we believe they should be described. It's not a personal reflection on the Prime Minister. It's not an inference. It's not an allegation. It is a description.
Order.
It is a description of the government, and I can recall many instances against the Howard government, against the Rudd government, against the Gillard government, where similar language was used, and on subsequent occasions ruled in order by the Speaker of the day. And if it is the position that you believe it is, that you require us to take this course of action, then I'm asking under the standing orders that you make clear that this is a ruling.
Decision.
That this is a ruling?
Yeah, I've already made my decision the last time this was made, and I really want question time to continue, as I'm sure all members do. Order. The Prime Minister will cease interjecting. So give the call to the member for Hume.
Treasurer, the Albanese Government is the weakest and most incompetent since the Whitlam Government. Yesterday, the RBA Governor said, "When I speak to the Treasurer, he is fully aware of the inflationary implications of his policies. He needs to think about that." Does this Treasurer accept the Governor's claim?
Give the call to the Treasurer.
Well, Mr Speaker, in the last minute or two we got the perfect illustration of the reckless arrogance of the opposition leader and the comical cluelessness of the Shadow Treasurer, Mr Speaker. In one little vignette in question time, all the reckless arrogance from this guy and all the comical cluelessness from his offsider who sits behind him, Mr Speaker.
The Treasurer is just going to return to the question. Order. The Treasurer is just going to return to the question.
Mr Speaker, the point that the Reserve Bank Governor made yesterday, which I welcome, because it is 100% consistent with the point that I've made on a number of occasions, is that my major focus, this government's major focus, is the fight against inflation. And that's what Governor Bullock said yesterday. Governor Bullock acknowledged again that my main focus and our main focus is fighting inflation, and she said, in a way that I'm perfectly comfortable with, that when I talk privately with the Governor of the Reserve Bank, I make it clear that inflation is our highest priority. Now, that's not the only point that Governor Bullock made yesterday. She made three major points. That was one of them. Another major point that she made was she reminded those opposite and the country more broadly that when it comes to inflation, that public demand is not the main game. She said that again yesterday. And the third important point that was made yesterday by the Governor in her press conference and in her statement is that inflation has fallen substantially from its peaks in 2022 and it's coming back to target in a reasonable way, Mr Speaker. Another good point made by the Reserve Bank Governor. Now, Mr Speaker, if the Shadow Treasurer wants to be accurate, it would be the first time, but if he wants to be accurate, then he should acknowledge in this place that the Reserve Bank yesterday released new forecasts for inflation where they lowered their forecasts for inflation. Inflation is already back in the target band for the first time since 2021, and the Reserve Bank made it clear with their new forecasts that they expect inflation to be lower than what they had earlier anticipated. And not just in a headline sense, Mr Speaker, but also when it comes to underlying inflation. Now, I say to the Shadow Treasurer, who appears to be chirping away in some kind of an incoherent way from over there, I say to the Shadow Treasurer that if he's dark about inflation at 2.8%, he must have been absolutely furious when he was in office and inflation was 6.1%. Because most people in Australia understand, even if the Shadow Treasurer doesn't, that 2.8 is smaller than 6.1. And inflation's a bit like golf, Mr Speaker. You want a lower number. You want a lower number, not a higher number. When we came to office, inflation was more than double what it is now. It was much higher and rising. Now it is lower and falling. And that's because, as the Reserve Bank Governor has rightly acknowledged in her comments yesterday, the fight against inflation is our #1 priority.
Call to the member for Reid.